Well, the best ability is availability, and it doesn't look like Virginia Tech is going to be getting much clarity on who's available until tomorrow when the ACC injury or availability reports drop tomorrow night. As we come to you here live from Blacksburg, Virginia on September 24th at 8:30 on Kolby's Corner. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. We'll have some roster updates, obviously on availability as we just touched on, a little bit of practice buzz, albeit brief, and then just talking about some North Carolina State previews. But yeah, first off, like you said, availability. It's been the talk of the town for the last couple of weeks, obviously, since Brent Pry's firing. It opens up the one-time 30-day transfer portal window, and a lot comes with that. And you saw last week, obviously, a lot of people unavailable, not dressed, and some of that was injury-related. We've had some stuff come out on the boards, which is genuinely injury-related, and some other things that obviously people are making decisions with their families, and all these situations are nuanced, granted, but it's come to the point where obviously asking the head coach, asking people on the staff, and they don't feel comfortable sharing. So just going through what the sourcing network's saying, just trying to shed some clarity on that before the report tomorrow. We'll see how these things come out, but obviously I think starting on it last week, dropped a note on vtscoop.com. It's been out on the website since last Saturday now, or I guess since Saturday now. I feel comfortable sharing. Obviously, James DeJoncum was not there on Saturday. He wasn't on the field. This is a situation that last week, obviously, after Brent Pry's firing, heard from Sourcing Network that DeJoncum went in and cleared out his locker and obviously wasn't available on Saturday. Heard maybe the situation had been rectified. Obviously, it wasn't there on Saturday. Montgomery failed to or didn't provide an update on that situation today. Keep digging, but obviously not in a great situation with the Eastern Michigan transfer there playing off the edge. And like I said, all these situations are nuanced. I don't think anything's set in stone. You'll see different announcements and stuff be coming out, and expect a lot of news here soon. But that's obviously one thing after Brent Pry's firing of one example. And that was over on the website. We're on 30% off right now if you want these scoops as they come out. When we saw he wasn't there, obviously an important piece of feedback, but it's come to the point where just a little bit of clarity is probably necessary. Looking on the other side, also at the defensive line spot, Keyshawn Burgos played in the first half of that Wofford game. Was not seen after halftime. Have heard some reports that sounds like he's in the doghouse, not in a great place over there as well. Obviously, DeJoncum is a grad student, so he doesn't have the liberty of taking that redshirt year as some other players. Burgos is a true senior, so he still has that redshirt option available to him. Just monitoring these things, obviously hearing through the sourcing network of these things. Like I said, asked Philip Montgomery for comment tonight on a litany of guys, and some guys, not going to bring up their names tonight, as some of those things will definitely start trickling out here soon. But those are two got to feel pretty confident in speaking on and talking about those situations. Failed to provide an update again tonight on those. So just what we're hearing over on vtscoop.com. Have more insight over there on the website, on the message boards. But those are two guys that sound like they're definitely in limbo with where the team is at right now. So when you look at the defensive end spot, as you go down to NC State, you're going to see some younger guys. You're going to see Asen Stevens, Jason Abbey, James Jeanette, who I thought had a decent game against Wofford, step up and see some more of that time. As it sounds like the availability report drops tomorrow, but we'll see how those guys are listed and if they can reconcile before the weekend. Definitely something to monitor there. And then going into the secondary, I think some things of note. Obviously, Dante Lovett has entered the portal, cleared that process. Caleb Brown wasn't dressed. Sounds like that might be a little bit of a nagging deal. Could potentially be long-term there in that cornerback room. So expect some of those young DBs. JoJo Krim, Jamari Deloach saw action obviously against Wofford. Expect those guys to step up and see more action against North Carolina State this weekend. I thought they played really well in their time. Steve Kiss was asked today after practice about playing some of those younger guys. I think it was 8 true freshmen. You saw Sheldon Robinson. You saw obviously those two corners. You saw Gabe Williams back out there. Obviously not a true freshman, but you saw him. You saw Zeke Chimwicki with the play. So they really rolled out some true freshman guys. And along that defense, we'll talk about it at the linebacker position and some other places where they're going to be shorthanded. So you're going to, I think, continue to see some of those true freshmen, younger guys have to be able to see the field. At linebacker, I know it was hinted at on the board. It doesn't take much to sort of put two and two together on some different things. Obviously, some guys weren't dressed for the game last weekend in that room. Sounds like some other things might continue to develop there. I would look to Noah Chambers, a true freshman guy, to step up there. I thought Caleb Spencer started against Wofford, had a really, really nice game. I want to continue to emphasize all these situations are nuanced. A lot of news is going to be coming out here in the next week. But everyone is working through their decisions in their own time. There's a lot of nuance. You understand why the staff is guarded. You understand why they're answering the questions that they are. Obviously, not coming as forward and front forward facing with the truth to the media, obviously, because there's some things that they're still trying to work through internally and messaging and trying to give people the right messages. But all those things listed, obviously, with Burgos, Jonkum, and some of those other situations, it won't be hard to see on the availability report tomorrow and as you sort of continue on through the season. So that's obviously a really big thing, is obviously knowing the players you're going to have available to you for the rest of the season. I mean, that's not to say everyone will be listed as questionable for the rest of the year. You definitely have guys who are bought in, but even at the end of the season, it's going to be a big shakeup in different facets. So definitely something to watch out. Those are a couple backstory tidbits to watch this weekend as they go on in their first true road trip of the year, going down to Carter Finley on Saturday night. So some of those other roster updates talking about also those true freshmen along the offensive line. Obviously, Montgomery kind of failed to give more of an update, said they're trending the right way. We'll see about Johnny Garrett and Cunningham. Those guys are still pretty dinged. But like I said, I think Aiden Lynch, I think Ricard, I think Altuner, I think those guys played nice against Wofford. But so much has been made of already that Wofford team. It's not exactly world beaters. So we'll see how they shake. That first ACC action, now maybe not against the most imposing NC State front, but a team that's still really good against the run. And they've shown the ability to stop the run. So I think that'll be a really good test for a lot of those young guys on that offensive line. But availability is the best availability. We started the show with that. So we'll see with the availability report if Montgomery does actually release a depth chart. I know earlier in the week he said he would, but I know it's a little bit of gamesmanship. It's obviously a little bit of instability in that room from the coaches down to the players. I know it's very nuanced for a lot of these guys. It's you can't really make enough of how emotional, how crazy. I think that's how Steve gets listed the week. A crazy week it was. You have people making I guess at the end of the day, life-altering decisions in a different way. But these are big decisions getting made. So you have people who, and sometimes there's miscommunication between coaches and players on different things, and that causes to rifts and guys wanting to make a decision or hit the door. And there's just a lot of nuance to these situations. So when you see things come out, there's always usually a little bit more than meets the eye. And I just say give grace to everyone in the situation. But yeah, it is going to be a shakeup. I think the availability report tomorrow will be pretty telling. I would expect some news. I've already expected some to come out. Obviously, things are already trickling out here, but I would expect even more to come here in the days and weeks to follow. Moving right along, I talked about those freshman DBs a little bit, but I would expect Krim. I would expect Deloach. And honestly, this goes back even in the spring, how big of a loss Josh Clark was, because that was someone who was shaping up to be that starting corner, and then you lose a guy. Caleb Brown's dinged up, Dante Lovett to the portal. You're rolling out those true freshman guys against pretty good ACC experience wide receivers there, and CJ Bailey's no joke. So I guess some other things as you roll into that NC State game to keep note of. Kyron Drones obviously had his best game against Wofford, but can it translate? This, I guess, NC State defense, their weakness is probably in the secondary in that passing game, but still, I know Virginia Tech's script to sort of win this game is going to have to be establishing that run, and they've been strong against the run. They've seen some pretty good competition now playing Virginia, Duke, some other quality teams. So they're number 20 in the FBS in run defense, and that could bottle Marcellus Hawkins, Kyron Drones. Will Terrence Stewart be ready to roll? That's another big question that we'll have to see tomorrow and how they roll out at practice. But if Virginia Tech can't establish that run game early, NC State's defense really plays into their game script. So can Drones build on that strong game that he had last week and also parlay into this week also with the passing game? Talking about NC State just a little bit as we dive into that preview. Obviously, we started the show talking about availability, but NC State, sitting at 3-1 here, in a pretty good spot. I think this is a pretty big game for them. They go here, Campbell, and then they're kind of in the thick of ACC play. And this is going to be pretty big for Dave Dorn and that squad if they're going to be able to make that eventual bowl game. I think they have I think they do have the best running back in the ACC, arguably one of the best running backs in the country in Hollywood Smothers. I think you're going to hear his name a lot on Saturday night. Virginia Tech's defense, I thought, looked improved against Wofford, but they haven't really shown the ability to stop the run effectively against Vanderbilt, ODU, or even South Carolina there late. I thought they did a better job there, but this is a really good running back and a really good team that blocks in the run game. And Hollywood Smothers, I think he's top 5 in the country in yards after contact, missed tackles force. He's just really, really dominant. And I think there's someone that they can build so much of their offense off of because he does so much for them. Think about a Bayshal Tootin last year. took away a lot of ugly spots on the offense because of what he was able to do, breaking tackles, making plays out of nothing in the run game. So I think that'll definitely be a name to highlight. CJ Bailey, and then the quarterback. I mean, this guy's 6'7". Someone called him, I forget, but I mean 6'7", like, and now it's the meme, but he really is 6'7", efficient with 72% completion rate. He spreads the ball around. Obviously, the tight end Justin Jolly, top target, someone as a safety valve, but I think he spread it to like 7-8 guys in that rotation, and he's just super efficient. He does what he needs to do. Smothers takes so much of the load off of that offense that he can just sit back there and operate. He maybe takes a little too many sacks sometimes. That offensive line's not exactly super strong, but maybe he takes some of those sacks on his own, but he can roll out of the pocket. And once he gets out there, he can hit guys on the run, can also do it himself, go get a first down. I think he's a pretty good player. So it's kind of a little bit of a nightmare matchup for Tech's run defense. And then also how shaky their secondary is going to be, or what it's looking like it's going to be against NC State. And like I said, that availability report will be pretty telling tomorrow. Expecting some news here in the days and weeks to follow for some clarity on guys who will actually be on the team moving forward, guys who will actually be available moving forward. Started the show, if you missed it, to rewind, talked about some guys, James Jonkum, Keyshawn Burger, some situations going on with the team. And then looking at the Wolfpack defense, as I guess we shift that forward in the recap, they're strong versus the run, like we touched on, top 20 in the FBS. And if they bottle Hawkins and Drones early, it could get ugly. And I know Drones look good against Wofford, but NC State's weakness really isn't that secondary. They're allowing, I think, close to 300 passing yards a game, 66% completion rate. It's an opportunity for the Virginia Tech wide receivers to step up. Now, Drones obviously has to deliver the ball on time and give them opportunities, but that it's there for them, like that's a really big opportunity in that phase of the game, I think, to exploit NC State if Drones can do that again. But like I said, the biggest thing is who's going to be available. What does this buy-in look like? I think the biggest thing is how does this team come out? It's not just about the scoreboard, but like the effort, the buy-in, and what Montgomery can get out of this group mid-season. Like this is the 5th game of the year, but it feels like a completely different situation than you would expect 5 games into the year, or really honestly anyone could have projected with the firing and just where guys' heads are at. It's a very different vibe. You can say a lot in the media and post-practice, and leaders can do their thing, but it is just a very odd situation. I don't think anyone expected to find themselves in at this point in the season. So I think the keys for VT, you got to start fast, score. Like if you score on that first drive and steal the momentum away from the Wolfpack, that's really big, because the only way I think you really stay with NC State in this is you have to be in a shootout. You pretty much have to score on every drive, because I don't know how effective the defense is going to be. And the offense hasn't shown that ability. So that game script doesn't really fall into their hand, but I think that's what you sort of have to lean on. The run game's going to have to keep the offense on track. You're going to have to find a way to try and generate turnovers against Smothers and Bailey. Obviously, Kamari Copeland with the big pick. You've seen fumbles at time throughout the year. Thomas Williams, I know, dove on one earlier. I thought the defense overall has done a decent job of turning the ball over, but you're going to have to do that against Smothers and Bailey if you want a shot in this game. So I think the prediction is definitely going to be North Carolina State favored, obviously going at home. First true road game for a lot of these guys. My prediction, I'm going with North Carolina State 31, Virginia Tech 13. I just don't think the offense is going to be able to keep up with North Carolina State. And I think that defense is just going to not have enough depth and experience there to go up against North Carolina State. Offense has looked pretty good and has a really, really dynamic running back. So that's kind of where I'm at. Dump some questions in the chat, as I said. Touch on some of those before we head out of here. These Wednesday shows are always kind of tough, especially when we don't get to see practice on Wednesdays, and we're at a time where pretty much all the news is coming off the field. We had a really, really great show on Monday talking about the budget and all that comes with that from Virginia Tech, and obviously their advancement into the athletics department and what they want to do with that. And then obviously the roster turnover, and so much news is going to come out about that in the next couple of weeks. If anyone wants to drop anything in the chat, we'll get to that. And if not, we'll be on site in Raleigh this weekend. Looking forward to it. But yeah, should expect some news here for some of those availability issues, notes in the next coming days. But it's been a very trying, crazy week for the players, coaches, everyone involved. Patchwork, just trying to keep it all together. And like there's just so much nuance to it. So I want to say that obviously with everything with a grain of salt and some grace for these guys. but I would expect some guys to actually be back from real injuries here soon, and some other guys, obviously on the availability report, it'll show pretty clearly some of those decisions being made. So appreciate the support. Make sure to go check out vtscoop.com, running 30% off annual promo for all the updates. We're expecting multiple linebackers to be out, or mainly just the obvious one. Hearing, obviously, it sounded like a couple here for this weekend to be out. So obviously there's one who obviously didn't play against Wofford, and there's another where it doesn't take much to see the math on where the redshirt status is for different guys. And yeah, everyone's in it, obviously having discussions with their agency groups and different things, just trying to find out what's best for them in their future. So everyone's just figuring that out. I would expect some announcements and news to trickle out on that here very soon. So, but yeah, I think you're definitely going to see that this weekend down at that spot. So I would turn to guys like Caleb Spencer, who earned the start against Wofford, had a really, really great game. I would turn to guys like Noah Chambers, who didn't see any action against Wofford, but it really seems like your time is coming, you know? Some guys ahead of you obviously have some decisions ahead of them, and just keep stacking days. It seems like that's something that's going to be coming down the pipe. So appreciate the support. That's something to monitor. It's not the best thing to report on, obviously, September 24th, talking about everything off the field. But when you can't see practice, answers are dodgy, as expected, as they should be, from the coaching staff in such a trying, weird spot. Like, you don't want them to come out and be but so forward, but at the same time, it's a performance-based deal. We live in the real world. You got to sort of just how call it out it is sometimes. And just based on the responses today, kind of necessary. We'll have more notes on this as we get closer to game week on vtscoop.com. Make sure to join tomorrow for Evan G. Watkins Terror Dome at 8 p.m. Going to have a lot of really good notes, subtle notes, maybe some very less subtle notes about some of these things going on, especially depending what news drops tomorrow. But yeah, obviously dancing around things, and I know it's tough, but I appreciate everyone's hanging in there. And yeah, it's been a ton of fun. We'll see you in Raleigh on Saturday. Everyone have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you Saturday. So appreciate it, and God bless. See you next time.